Billy told Alex that the downtown company had changed leadership, and Alex ordered Jerome to keep watch on the man and get information quickly. Alex sat quietly in his dark room as the door opened slowly and the lights and curtains were turned on. The blonde woman nervously asks whether Alex is overseas, and then turns his chair to face her as she says she only wants his time. Alex showed Mrs. the printed photo after asking whether she wanted the company or his fortune, and she had just insisted that she wanted his time. Poppy Alexander denied the photo and called it an edit, while Alex insisted he had taken it himself. Poppy smiled, traced Alex's face with her fingernails, and complained that he never spared time for her. Alex asked what she wanted, who the man was, and how much money he needed to spend to make her leave him. Alex was taken aback when Poppy said the man came every night, and he struggled to hold back his anger. He told her that he would not take back the company she had taken over, and that she should regard it as his provision for her to begin a new life. Poppy said she wanted to be released from the bondage and walked away, closing the door quietly. Alex leaned back in his chair, closed his eyes, caught his breath, and then looked out the window. Alex saw Poppy with the man, smiled disdainfully, and told Billy to bring the man to him after buying the most expensive sealed drink from a hygienic place. After the call ended, Alex changed into casual clothes, took a drink and an apple from the refrigerator, and ate the apple without peeling it. Alex heard a knock and called for the door to be opened, then watched Billy and Jerome come in as Billy complained about having to call him Mr. at the office. Alex said it was not pretense, but he allowed them to call him by name outside work. He then warned them not to betray him and pointed at Jerome to unseal the drink cover. Jerome opened the bottle quickly and poured the drink into Alex's glass while Alex asked for information, and Jerome answered that the man was a street fighter living in a small house in a slum and known as a thug in the area. Alex told everyone to get ready, then signaled Billy toward the money on the table and asked whether there was a shortage, noting that the total was 100 million. The man answered with a wry smile that he valued himself more than that amount. Alex smiled and remarked that the man had self-respect, then warned that such behavior would only waste his time and told them to leave. Alex led the way with Billy following behind, and both paused as the man spoke again before Alex kept walking without answering. Billy picked up a bag filled with money, patted the man's shoulder, and warned him that she was not easy to fool. Alex looked at Billy disapprovingly and warned her not to imply that his wife had cheap taste. Billy told Alex to control his emotions and said she was only joking, then drove the car away while Poppy walked by in the distance, looking older than before. Poppy excitedly reminded the man to transfer the money later because she still had many things to buy. The man Alex met earlier arrives on a shiny black sports motorbike, greets the burly man in a black coat, and hurries off after telling him to meet at the usual place today. Jerome explained to Alex and Billy that the man's name was Beryl, that Alva already had a wife with a noble title, and Alex remarked on the irony of a mistress making him an affair. Billy asked whether Alex was all right, but Alex, clearly drunk, threw his glass and ordered them to call the woman over while Jerome asked if he meant his brother-in-law. Alex retorted if Jerome was willing to call his mother a bitch. Jerome looked away while Billy changed the subject, pointed out that Jerome could laugh too, and asked Alex to scold him. Jerome said he would keep trying to find more information, and after Alex told him he could go, he and Billy paused near the exit for a serious talk about brother-in-law. Billy asks whether they should go back to talk to Alex, and Jerome answers that he would not keep it secret if he thought Alex could handle it. He adds that the matter is serious enough to be fatal for someone with heart disease. Billy monitored the surroundings and asked what it was, and Jerome began to explain that he had accidentally seen them while spying on Alva before Billy cut him off with a tap on the shoulder. Billy said that if Jerome thought it should be kept secret from Alex, it was a big mistake. Jerome replied that he already knew their offer had been rejected and that it did not surprise him, then explained why they had to speak in secret. Billy furrowed her brows and accused her sister-in-law of keeping other mistresses, even an older man, before Jerome gave her a light slap and she groaned in confusion. She then asked what he meant. Jerome warned her not to speak badly about her brother-in-law, fearing Alex might hear and react violently, and then Alex suddenly appeared to ask what secret they were keeping. Billy and Jerome turned toward him as the burly boxer was declared the champion after the referee's count ended. In the boxing arena, the crowd watched the decisive moment unfold. The audience cheered loudly for Alva as he moved bravely through the sea of fans, while a man in a sports suit with earphones watched unnoticed before hurrying away to the office. At Alex's company, Jerome handed the car keys to the security guard, let the office maids help him change coats, and then walked into Alex's room with a strange look on his face. Billy smiled as she watched Jerome. Alex asked Jerome how the service was, and Jerome turned a cold look on Billy before asking Alex what the situation was about. Alex said that nothing was wrong and told Jerome to be more careful in his duties as a spy. Billy warned Jerome not to reveal himself too much as a spy. Jerome asked whether he had done anything wrong, and Alex smiled while explaining that they were only improving improving the company's safety and comfort with a test run. Alex expected seriousness from Jerome and said he had a plan to help Jerome get back to his brother-in-law. But then Alex's phone rang with a call from a big client. While Alex took the call, Jerome re-explained the plan to Billy, who nodded as she questioned why they needed to create a drama instead of simply finding Alva and telling her about her husband's affair. Alex interrupted, ordered Billy to arrange a flight to Los Angeles for that night, and then left the room after Jerome voiced his doubts about the plan. Alex moved close to Poppy and whispered in her ear that this was what she wanted. Poppy complained about the short notice and the lack of packed clothes, while Alex reassured her that they would buy new clothes later and kissed her left hand sincerely. Alex grabbed Poppy's face to make her look at him and teased her about blushing. Poppy denied it, avoided his eyes, and then grew uncomfortable when he asked whether Alva was the reason. Alex accidentally bumps the tray and spills drinks onto his coat as he turns away from the flight attendant. The flight attendant put the tray away and tried to help clean the coat, but Alex refused before the attendant chuckled and kept helping him. Poppy waited for Alex to return, but when she tried to check, the man across from her restrained her and told her to take her seat because of possible turbulence. Annoyed, Poppy asked what he meant as the man introduced himself as Adam. Poppy dismissed his introduction and told him to return to his seat. Alex came back in a thin short-sleeved shirt, asked what was happening, and then sat down to watch Poppy with unease as Adam left after saying he was only reminding her. Alex explained that his clothes were wet from the spilled drink and could not be used, while Poppy snapped that she had not asked. He then gestured toward the flight attendant and asked whether she was not beautiful, and Poppy replied that it was up to him. Alex said the flight attendant was beautiful but still far below Poppy, and when Poppy told him to be quiet and said she wanted to sleep, he leaned closer and offered his shoulder for her to rest on. Alex smiled and told Poppy to lean back after promising to teach the teasing man a lesson. Alex apologized, explaining that the plane was being repaired and that Billy could not find a business class ticket, so Poppy had to travel in economy class. Alexander's company manager then told Alex that people from Wilson's company were waiting for him in the meeting room. Alex said he would go to the meeting room soon, told the manager to serve first, and instructed the receptionist on duty to relay his order to Angel. Alex entered the meeting room, apologized for the delay without meeting the client's eyes, and realized the client was a familiar man. Alex smiled faintly and invited the man to sit, noting that the company had sent him because there was no one else to come. Alex asked for the files, tore up the papers, put them back into the red folder, and told Adam to discuss the errors with his team, fix them, and call him back. Adam protested about the torn files, and then answered Alex that Wilson Company had been around for about 10 years with consistent achievements. Alex expressed suspicion that such a company was making a fatal mistake, while Adam asked what he meant and then tried to show something on his phone and took out another file. Alex accused Adam of threatening him and, after Adam defended their actions as fair, made a phone call and told the person on the line to be firm in their work. After the call, Alex patted Adam on the shoulder, congratulated him, and hoped he would be more professional. Adam remained silent while Poppy handed clothes to Angel, who kept choosing items and smiling. Angel told Poppy that Alex was lucky to have a wife like her, and Poppy asked what he meant. Angel compliments Poppy's beauty, and Poppy politely thanks him before warning him not to speak about her husband. Angel replies that it is acceptable because he is close to Alex and knows much about Alex's life, while Poppy reminds him that Alex is his boss and should not be addressed by name. Poppy took her groceries and left, while Angel apologized for offending her and tried to explain that he and Alex were used to calling each other by name. Poppy glared at him and accused him of trying to ruin her relationship with Alex. Angel said he and Alex had been friends for a long time and spent weekends together in an apartment they bought. Poppy smirked, stroked Angel's cheek with her fingernail, traced to his lips, and bit her lower lip until it bled. She taunts Angel, changes into tight clothes, squares up, and lands a strike to his chest. Angel sneered at Poppy, grabbed her hair, and fought on as Poppy laughed and drove a hard punch into Angel's stomach while the cameras kept recording them. The crowd watches in amazement as Poppy fights her superior's wife, and several journalists arrive to cover the scene live. Alex arrives at the broadcast location and walks confidently through the crowd while cameras turn toward him. Alex smiled, removed his coat, past the reporters and Poppy, then crouched in front of Angel and grabbed her chin. Angel smiled through a groan and admitted that the pain was because of Poppy, and Alex immediately slammed Angel's chin, silencing her before standing up and handing his coat to Poppy. Alex and Poppy leave the scene under the camera's gaze as Alex opens the car door and speaks to a reporter before Poppy gets in. He said that he did not accept bitches as employees at Alexander's company, then put on sunglasses and got into the car. They drove away in silence until Alex played music. Alex closes the car roof, grips Poppy's chin, and pulls her face close while warning her not to destroy what is already his and offering help if she wants it. Poppy tried to push Alex away, but his strength made it useless, and Alex teased her about her earlier fight with Angel while telling her to watch the road. road. Poppy pointed ahead as Alex joked that the beauties beside him mattered more and switched on the autopilot. Poppy smiled shyly and looked out at the rain while Alex asked since when she could fight, noticing how much she had changed with Alva and that she no longer seemed to need his protection. Poppy told him to stop arguing, and Alex asked her to fetch something from the back. Confused by 2 boxes of different sizes, Poppy handed one to Alex, who thanked her and offered the other box as payment for helping. Poppy complained but complied as Alex kept driving at above average speed, and after noticing the black fan car behind them, Poppy quickly buckled her seatbelt and fell silent. Alex teased Poppy for help again, and after a brief hesitation she agreed to hold the wheel while he took over later. Alex released the wheel and Poppy took control without changing seats. Alex watched the road through the rearview mirror, ready with a weapon from the box. Poppy warned Alex not to try anything harmful in the public place, and Alex answered with a tease before firing a shot into the left front tire of the fan car behind them. Alex took over the wheel after the car veered off the road, and Poppy said he had not seen the gift yet, so he did not know what was inside. Poppy told him he could open it now, and Alex asked whether she was sure she would not bother him anymore. Poppy answered that she was not sure, but that she was ready to take care of him. Alex drove nimbly while Poppy glanced to the far left and startled at the bullet that scratched the car. Alex led the cars out into a field, adjusted his glasses, and reached behind his seat to take out a SIG Sauer P22 and a Colt M1911A1. Alex asked whether Poppy was afraid, then kept aiming carefully at the opponents while Poppy told him to focus and get them home safely. Poppy took one of Alex's weapons and fired at the tires of a car blocking them, then returned the weapon. Alex chuckled, but when a bullet pierced Poppy's left shoulder, his pleasure turned into overwhelming emotion as he kept driving, and she pressed a cloth to the wound. Alex drove while struggling with his emotions, promised to avenge Poppy's pain, and told her not to ask permission to sleep because he needed her help. Poppy said she felt very sleepy, and Alex answered seriously that she should focus because he was not ready to die yet. With all opponents defeated, the moment felt safer. Alex breathed a sigh of relief as the incoming car rolled over after being struck from the right, and Poppy's warning had just given them a chance to react. Alex told Billy and Jerome to handle the remaining enemies while he stayed behind to treat Poppy's wound. Alex and Poppy walk toward the overturned car with trapped people as Alex asks whether Poppy is still sleepy and promises to clean the wound first. Poppy asked how, and Alex told her she had to obey him. He stepped out of the car and moved to its left side, then tried to remove her clothes while she resisted because she had left her shopping clothes at the mall. Alex tried to convince her that if she did not remove them, he would tear them off, making it harder to remove the bullet. He assured her the area was secured from outside view. Poppy softened and let Alex continue, and when he teased her about being free to do something to her and about being seduced, she refused him at once. Alex then carefully removed Poppy's clothes as she winced in pain and gave her a thick cloth to bite down on because they had no painkillers. Alex cleaned the outside of Poppy's wound and began removing the bullet while urging her to hold on. Poppy shook her head and said she was not ready, then screamed as Alex touched the bullet wound. Alex took a deep breath, stood up, and motioned for Billy to leave the room. Billy rushed off, leaving Alex alone with the 3 tortured people as he gently held their chins and urged them to speak quickly without any more violence. Alex turns toward a more vulnerable man and shatters a glass nearby, provoking a scream of fear. Alex smiled and rubbed the glass shards lightly against the chair near the man's arm while demanding a full introduction. Alex asked whether they truly understood what it meant to enjoy life, and Regia answered that Atha had said it meant doing everything they wanted, the same as freedom. Alex crouched before Willie and asked how much money they had earned for their actions. Willie said the amount would cover a few days in a 5-star hotel, and Alex offered money while asking how much they wanted. The 3 exchanged hesitant looks and swallowed, with Regia and Willie seeming tempted as Fairy refused and tried to rouse his friends. Billy hoarsely asked what was happening and where the others were. The tension rises as they cannot tell whose blood it is or where the 4 people have gone. Billy and Jerome quickly build fortifications to protect Poppy while the sound of a heavy object dragging across the tiles grows clearer. Billy and Jerome went on full alert as Jerome shouted a barehanded challenge and ordered the intruders to leave, just as a loud crash rang out nearby. Billy, Jerome, and Poppy are caught in a shocked moment as a sudden onlooker reacts, while their private jet passes overhead above the tiny houses below. Poppy asked what everyone wanted to eat while Alex checked whether Billy or Jerome could cook, and both of them shook their heads. Alex suggested that everyone eat in the cabin and then asked Billy and Jerome to carry all of the food inside. Poppy thanked Alex and kissed him, while Jerome looked away and Billy chuckled after returning from the cockpit. Alex then filled a small bowl with seafood soup and served a portion of Vineet Vaish's dish to give Poppy a little extra attention. Alex gently kissed Poppy's hand and inhaled her scent before telling her to finish eating because they would land soon. Poppy apologized for her past actions and Alex told her not to apologize apologize, saying that he loved her and would pay more attention to her in the future. When Poppy tried to apologize again, Alex stopped her with a bite of food. He chuckled at her messy eating and wiped food from her lips with his finger, and her cheeks reddened as Billy suggested moving to the kitchen and got up with Jerome following, leaving Alex and Poppy alone. Alex smirked and drew close to Poppy until their faces nearly touched, while Poppy's heart raced and her eyes began to close. At the airport, Alex then carried the sleeping Poppy toward the car, pausing to inhale her scent with a faint smile. Alex nodded and laid Poppy in the back seat with her head on his thigh while Jerome drove and Billy sat beside him. Billy asked Alex what he had done to 3 people, and Alex answered with chilling calm that he had thrown their bodies in the trash and burned them until nothing remained. As Poppy began to wake, Alex soothed her back to sleep while stroking her hair. Alex frowned and asked what Jerome meant about tomorrow. Jerome looked at him flatly before turning back to the road, and Alex steadied Poppy as the car came to a stop at the entrance gate. Alex approached Poppy in the house and hugged her tightly without smiling. Poppy asked why he was acting differently, and Alex admitted that he still missed her. After Poppy urged him not to leave for work yet, Alex released her arm as she walked lethargically toward the dining table. Alex cursed about being left behind, and Poppy quickly covered his mouth to stop him from swearing. Alex apologized, admitted that he was very upset, and told Poppy he had to fly back to LA today and leave her. Poppy smiled and pinched Alex's cheeks while teasing him for getting excited like that, and Alex insisted he would go whether she wanted him to or not before Poppy said she was coming with him. Alex objected that she had just gotten home and did not want to take her on another long trip. Poppy pouted and asked how long he would be gone, and Alex answered that it would be about 2 to 3 days, though he would try to return on the second day. Poppy forced a smile, caressed his cheek, and told him to finish breakfast quickly so he could leave and come back soon. Alex hoped she would be all right at home alone and told her to call him if needed. Poppy said she would wait for his return, and Alex gently stroked her cheek as she closed her eyes. He kissed her lips and said goodbye. In a dark room illuminated only by light from a vent, a casually dressed man said they had to pay close attention to a certain person, while another man in a neat suit with a fedora replied that it was not important and to keep an eye on him. The first man asked if he was sure, and Jerome revealed himself after removing the statue mask. Alex smiled faintly and told Jerome to keep an eye on the subject before ordering the kids to be sent in. Alex fiddled with his fingers over the back of his chair while the room stayed tense and silent for Billy's return. Billy welcomed Fairy, Regia, and Willie and told them to sit down. Fairy then stood up, accused Alex of deceiving them, and Alex smiled as he pressed Fairy's hand until Fairy whimpered and apologized. Alex said he did not like the word cheat and found it annoying. Fairy insisted he was just stating what really happened. Regia pulled Fairy down and told him to calm down. Alex asked what kind of cheat he meant. Alex smiled, approached Fairy, and asked whether the torture had not been enjoyable before returning to his seat. He told them not to take it as torture but as a lesson. Regia groaned and asked if it was learning, and Billy asked if they had never been told the negative effects of drinking alcohol. Regia said they knew the impact but felt fine and even good as long as they drank. Alex asked their ages, and Willie answered that they were 20 years old and had started drinking at 15. Alex ordered Billy to take them back to their room, and the argument ended in a tense silence. Alex leaned back in his chair, ignored Jerome's question, and then headed toward the room with the fitness equipment as Poppy welcomed the man into her house and pointed him to the kitchen. Poppy went up to the second floor and found Alex sitting quietly on the bed in her room, where he cracked a small smile. Poppy nervously asked if it was really him, and Alex smiled wryly before leaning in close to her and inhaling her fragrance. Poppy seemed uncomfortable and tried to distance herself, but Alex was stopped as Poppy hugged him tightly and whispered that she missed him. Alex let go of Poppy, held her cheeks, and looked into her eyes as he whispered that he knew she was hiding something and wanted to get acquainted. Poppy tried to change the subject by suggesting that he rest while she made lunch. Alex said he was not hungry and wanted to walk downstairs, then suddenly attacked the man at the door. The man resisted, lifted Alex, and slammed him onto the tile. Alex cursed and demanded to know how much money the man wanted to stay away from his wife. The man said Poppy was not cheap and worth more than all the treasures in the world. Alex grabbed the man's leg, dragged him down, and kept kicking as Poppy shouted for them to stop and fired a shot into the ceiling. Both men froze as Poppy shouted at Alva to leave, and the others began to move out of the room in tense silence. Alex said he would fulfill Poppy's wish to end their relationship after she tried to explain herself. Alex steps outside to find Billy and Jerome waiting, while Poppy takes Alex's hand and begs not to be parted from him, promising to explain everything. Alex asked what explanation she could offer after he had seen the truth. Poppy released his hand, lowered her head, and laughed bitterly. She agreed to split up if that was what he wanted, and Alex said it was good she was aware. Poppy pointed at Alex and demanded to know who he was to call her selfish and fickle. Alex asked whether she did not want to confess, then insulted her mistresses by saying they were beneath him and calling himself an old man. Poppy stared at Jerome and asked whether he had told Alex that. Alex told her not to involve them, insisting they had never considered his feelings even though they helped maintain the household. He said he had seen Poppy with an old man near the place where he met Alva, and Poppy denied it loudly as a slap rang out. Billy and Jerome decided to leave for the office to avoid further conflict, while Alex pointed at Poppy with disdain and ordered her to take her treasures and go. Poppy clenched her fists and resisted, but Alex held and twisted her hand until she winced. Alex leaned close to Poppy's ear and taunted her that if she thought he was a lunatic, then he was one, and that she would not escape him easily. Poppy told him to stop as tears streamed down her face, and Alex answered with a smirk, asking whether she was sick. Billy asks Alex how much more he wants to drink, sounding annoyed. Alex smirked as he stood up, grabbed Billy by the collar, and looked at her softly while reminding them that he had almost won yesterday. Jerome then slapped Alex and urged him to try living a better life instead of acting this way. Alex gently held his right cheek as his vision blurred, while Billy handed him a glass of water and urged him to drink. Instead, Alex threw the glass onto the floor. Jerome said it might be time for him to appear in public and reminded Alex and Billy of his previous idea. Alex chuckled and said that they only drank water and were only pretending to be drunk. Jerome laughed while looking at the bottle labeled real fresh water from the mountains, as Billy asked where they were going and Alex told her that he and Jerome would go without her. Billy's expression shifted, and Jerome chuckled when she asked how long, and he answered that it was unpredictable. Jerome added that he could not say how long he would be the second Master Alex either, while Billy spoke into the microphone in the office and explained that Mr. Alex was on a business trip to China and that she would be his temporary replacement. She instructed everyone to follow Mr. Alex's rules as well as her own, and the team listened in agreement while Jerome handed Alex a newly prepared ID. Alex would now use the name John A. They had planned a departure for China and had already sent Ferry, Rija, and Willie back to their home country. Alex arrives in China, shouts in triumph, and spins with arms wide as the wind lifts around them. Jerome told Alex not to embarrass himself because many people were watching, and Alex smiled as he replied that this was as good a time as any to go to China. Alex asked where they were going, and Jerome curtly said they were headed to a boxing ring before walking on ahead as Alex followed behind, still praising every place they passed. By late night, they had reached a quiet, rarely visited corner of the city. Alex scratched his scalp with an amused look and told the burly men to ask their own dad for money. The bald man demanded money and threatened them. Alex refused to give him even a second of it, and Jerome tried to apologize and offer money as the attack began. Alex climbs onto the bald man's shoulder and drives a hard elbow into his head as the fight rages around them. Alex stood motionless with a blank stare while the bald man charged at him and shouted. Alex stands over the bald man as the fallen body lies limp at his feet while the well-dressed man walks away, applauding and asking for his name, and Jerome cuts in to say that his name is John. Linga introduced himself and asked where John was from, while Jerome answered that they were from Indonesia and looking for a master. Then Linga asked John who he was, and John said he was as John's manager. Linga recalled training Alva from scratch after hearing that the others knew him. He observed their luggage and handed Jerome a business card, offering help if needed. Jerome thanked him. After Linga left, John and Jerome decided to go to John's nearby apartment instead of searching for an inn, and they walked away unsteadily. John asked as to call him John in the future so they could get used to it and avoid planned failures, and as apologized before the doorbell rang and has found no one at the peephole. John opens the door again and finds only the same medium-sized box waiting outside. Annoyed, John slammed the door shut and called the situation strange, while as asked whether the box was meant for them. John doubted it, pointed out that the neighboring apartments were empty, and then watched us run inside as he muttered an insult after him. Max teased John and as about losing, and Linga brought them into a luxurious bar while praising John's fight as the first to hurt Max. John, drunk from the expensive drinks, stumbles as a man's nudge sends him falling while Az and Linga watch nearby. John cursed the man, but the man only smiled back and insulted him, while Az pulled John away to avoid trouble and Max mocked them for being losers in the fancy bar. John punched Max above his right eye, then defended himself with a bottle before striking Max's head and drawing Az's approval as Linga paid off the police to leave. Max broke an empty water bottle and threatened John. Linga directed his men to ambush Max from behind, which succeeded. Linga praised the situation, as suggested calling the police, but Linga proposed settling the matter in the ring. Max scoffed at the idea, remembered his earlier loss to John, and then threw the bottle to the floor before challenging John to a fight that weekend at their usual place. John held his body against the opponent's power and staggered backward as his fist kept missing its mark. After training, Linga approached John with a bottle of mineral water and urged him to drink before he could speak. Linga then told John that his earlier opponent was nothing to Max and doubted he could beat Max if he kept practicing like this. John objected that he was only tired and might have defeated his opponent otherwise, while Linga pressed him to stop dodging and win. John asked what he should do as this suddenly appeared during their conversation, and he noticed a policeman leaving the entrance. John asked as where he had been and what had happened, and as replied in a chaotic rush that he had found a special trainer for John. John limps with a rope wrapped around his stomach, then drops a bucket and kneels on the ground, panting heavily. John curses back as the old man orders him to get up and replace the spilled water again and again. John complained about the task, and the old man called him weak, saying he had only accepted John as a protege because of someone else. When John asked who he meant, the old man told him to stop talking and finish the job. John rested in the old man's hut after practice as the old man burst in and smashed John's cell phone, cracking the screen and knocking the battery loose. John expressed his anger and demanded the old man's real name and an explanation for why he was torturing him. The old man says he is a coach who wants to produce great fighters and doubts that John is one of them. John asks to contact his men, and the old man tells him he will not stop him if he wants to leave. John stared at the old man's back in silence, then took a bag and walked away, keeping his gaze fixed on the old man until he passed him. Early in the morning, he dug a large hole near the old well with a hoe. He carried buckets of water and sacks, placing a boulder into a sack and filling his bucket with water drawn from the well. He balanced the buckets on a long wooden block across his shoulder and tied the sacks containing the boulder to his feet, hips, and hands. John filled the pool with bucket after bucket of water until it was full, and then many children came to bathe while their clothes rested on the stones he had arranged. The old man watched John and sent a little boy to call him. They met in a large empty room with a glass ceiling, where the old man told John to remember his purpose when fighting and warned him not to fight aimlessly. John said that he had a strong goal and desire, while the old man warned him again not to do anything useless. After John asked the old man's name, the old man rose and walked away, and John followed him into a bedroom that resembled a cowshed. John asks whether he is being kicked out after the old man has laid out his clean clothes and handed him a large square cloth. John has packed his clothes, tied them with cloth, and is ready to leave after the old man tells him to defeat his next opponent. John said he would not leave and would stay to serve the children in the village. John argued that they would accept him because they needed someone like him, while the old man urged him to think of his family and mentioned his boyfriend's efforts to get him training. The old man named AZ, who had begged to be John's coach and spoken about John's family, urges John to return to Indonesia with knowledge and life, not just a name. John stopped, smiled faintly, turned around, and thanked the old man after being called Jack. John turned away and hurried off toward his apartment, unable to call AZ because his damaged cell phone was no longer usable. AZ patted John on the shoulder and urged him to defeat his opponent before John stepped into the ring. John regard Max dun air impassable tandis que le combat commence et chuel se met engard sans reposter rest ant calm face aux provocations de Max. John glanced at the audience, smiled briefly, and answered with a challenge as he stepped forward to fight back. Max, drained from his earlier attacks, offered only weak resistance. John hit Max hard in the face, then lifted him and slammed him down before Max's counterattack brought John to the ground. Max kicked John in the stomach, sat on him, and kept striking him after John slumped helplessly to the floor. The crowd cheers hysterically as AZ is held back by guards while the referee lets the match continue, and John, wounded, hoists Max and slams him down hard. John continues stomping on Max's stomach as fresh blood spills from Max's mouth, while the crowd cheers him on and shouts for Max to be killed. John raised the folding chair as the crowd grew louder, and Max answered by lifting his own chair before bringing it down hard. John declared that Max could take all his possessions but never his family, and that John would not take Max's treasure, urging him to use the opportunity for better things. John then stepped down from the ring, followed closely by AZ. AZ demanded an explanation after calling John by his real name, Jerome, as they stood in the apartment after the silent drive from the venue. John ignored the question and kept using AZ's cell phone to call someone. John told Jerome to call him by his usual name and said they were returning to Indonesia. Jerome looked relieved and joked about the nickname AZ, and John reminded him that Jerome had chosen it. John said they would go home that day and that he would call Billy to arrange the pickup. Jerome replied that he needed to clean his clothes first, and John offered to pay 5 times his salary so he could buy new ones. John reassures Billy that they are coming home that day and promises to update her about the landing. Billy asked about things there, and John said everything was good except for a confession. Billy laughed and promised John and Jerome a vacation when they got home, and John thanked her before saying he awaited their return. A woman in a sexy dress then asked whether he was Mr. Alex. Alex rolled his eyes as he entered the meeting room, and the others rose around him while he took his seat. Alex snapped his fingers to command silence and stopped the presentation while asking the woman her name. Alex Alex told her to ask her CEO to meet him later, declined the offer to repeat the presentation, and then stood to leave the room after telling his trusted person to contact him if the Antareja CEO arrived. Penny, surrounded by colleagues, jokes that no one can resist her charms, while Benny answers that this is why he belongs to her. Alex and Poppy arrive at Alex's old house, and Poppy asks why he has brought her there. Alex kissed Alva's lips, carried her into the bedroom they once shared, and laid her on the bed before admitting that her scent was why he missed her. Poppy tried to pull away, but Alex held her tightly as she sobbed and reminded him that they had already split up. Alex said they had not, insisting that no letter of goodbye had been signed and that Poppy was still his. Poppy asked why he had left, and Alex answered that he was only away for a while as Poppy screamed that he had left. Alex said he was back now, kissed Poppy on the cheeks and forehead, and then answered a call from the office about the Antareja CEO's arrival before asking Poppy to come with him. Alex said he wanted to spend more time with Poppy, and she agreed as he pointed toward the shopping bags and told her to wear the clothes inside. Alex thanked the employee and told him to return to work after hearing that the Antareja CEO was waiting in the meeting room. Alex sits in his chair while Poppy tries to take the seat beside him, and Penny blocks her with a flirtatious look toward Alex. Poppy said nothing, stood up, and looked for another seat, but Penny kept blocking her by using Benny to switch seats. Alex ignored the CEO and motioned for Poppy to come closer, patting his thigh to make room for her. The CEO asked what Alex meant, and Alex tore up the Antareja proposal while insulting Penny and dismissing the company's chances of cooperation. Alex stared intently at Poppy and asked if she had done something again. Poppy stammered a denial, but Alex interrupted and said she must be punished as he touched her cheek and lips and carried her into his study. Alex laid Poppy on the sofa and insisted he could do as he pleased at home, citing the saved phone number and message notification as reasons to punish her now. Poppy asked him to stop, but Alex insisted that he would fulfill her unspoken desires and reminded her that, as her husband, everything in her belonged to him and vice versa. Poppy remained indifferent as Alex insisted she would enjoy and repay what he had done to her body. Alex kissed Poppy's forehead and whispered for her to enjoy it, but Poppy then answered her ringing phone and said she would be there right away. After the call, Alex restrained Poppy, hid the business card key to the door, and accused her of leaving him with renewed desire when she asked to go. Alex asked whether anyone had let Gita in after she entered to offer help. Gita told Alex that she cared about him and could replace Poppy for his sake, while he teased her in return with his eyes closed. Gita whispered her question as Alex shoved her away, grimacing and ordering her to leave while threatening her job. Unshaken, Gita hurt herself in front of him until her lip bled. She said she would play his game. Alex asked if she meant to frame him and denied it. Gita looked up and was shocked to see CCTV cameras installed in Alex's room, which she had not expected there. She cursed under her breath as Poppy warned Alex not to compete with Alva, and Alex answered with a smirk that blamed Poppy for the situation while insisting he would do anything for her. Poppy urged him to withdraw his challenge, but Alex refused, locking eyes with Alva as Alva prepared to leave after issuing a final warning. Alva had already left when Billy and Jerome rushed in and approached Alex after hearing about the fight. Alex listens as Jerome and Billy question whether the fight is worth the risk to his career, his life, and his relationship with Poppy. Alex said the fight would only end if one of them died. Billy slapped him hard and called him crazy, and Alex held his cheek while blaming Alva for ruining both families through an affair. Poppy tried to speak, but Alex cut her off and insulted her. Alex walked past them, while Billy and Jerome looked at Poppy with questions. Poppy remained silent, shaking violently and lowering her gaze. Jerome asked what had happened, but Poppy said it was nothing. Billy urged her to be honest before it was too late and warned her not to be selfish, saying their respect for her came from their respect for Alex, while Alva kept pressing against Alex and kicking him in the stomach inside the ring. Alex tried to fight back by grabbing Alva's leg and pulling hard, causing Alva to collapse. Alex smiled triumphantly and struck Alva's face mercilessly. Alex heard the crowd's cheers, then glanced out of the ring toward a tearful woman clutching a hysterical child who was screaming for their father to wake up.